Good evening. I am the narrator, and welcome to my parlor. Tonight's story is The Cold. My job is both easy and unrewarding. I am awake while others sleep, and asleep while they are awake. I stand for hours, taking 1 half-hour break. For meals, I have a lunch pail. My income is low, but so are my expenses. A perfect circle. I am a night watchman. It is all I have ever been and done, credit-limited education. I take no pride therein. Guarding is easy, and the things I guard are of no value to me. Perhaps they are to others. Perhaps I am doing them a service, but not to me. I do, however, value my uniform, cap, and firearm. They don't flatter me, nothing does, but do grant me an air of significance. My job is unique in that an uneventful shift is a good one. Luckily, that describes nearly all my shifts. This is easily explained. While my area is poor, property crime is very low. This is due to the low value of local property. At times I feel superfluous. One night, however, was not uneventful. The opposite, in fact. Its impact remains to this day, unshaken and unshakable. It was a brisk autumn evening when my employer, Donnellan, of Donnellan's Private Security, called. I have only a first name, he only a last. You've been assigned to a new location, I was told. When and where, I asked. I'd been guarding a milk dispensary and wearied of the smell of lactose. I drove to the main office. As always, it was small and cramped, littered with papers and other detritus. As always, my manager held a cigarette between his fingers, his hairline receding in the dim light. It's the munitions factory, the abandoned one, he told me. It's been bought. The new opener is going to reopen it. First, he's having it refurbished starting next week. It needs a night watchman before and during. The munitions plant, built decades before, whose name, official as it sounded, escaped me entirely. It had provided ammunition for several wars on several continents. Its operations peaked in my youth, when the odor of its chemicals, the grind of its machines, wafted and sounded through the town. It all ended one day with the stroke of a pen and a call to the manager. Bureaucracy. I biked past it once, disliked it. New owner, I asked, slightly curious. Who would buy that dump? Errol Dolt. Heir to the Dolt fortune, he groaned. My curiosity grew. The multimillionaire had arrived in town just the month before. Since then, he'd attached his and his family's name to every property he could. Naturally, local media noticed, but when asked, he kept his intention squarely to himself. Why? I asked, casually, as if I wasn't interested when I definitely was. Fuck if I know, he shrugged. Gotcha, I said, and accepted the job. This, he said, reaching into his desk, is a map to it. He produced a sheet of white paper with crude directions scrawled in black ink. I had no need, but obliged him. When the time came, I donned my uniform, armed myself, and set forth. My pail rested on the passenger seat. Therein lie a Ziploc sandwich, a bag of store-brand potato chips, and a bottle of lukewarm water. Night had fallen, and the town slept soundly. I left the map at home. The sun set early. The temperature was cool, the wind gentle. Best I could tell, I was the only driver on the road, surrounded by empty fields and unpaved gravel. Before me stood two factories, across from each other, both years abandoned. My destination was on the left. I recognized it from the photo. I pulled in the lot, parked, and stepped out. I stood before the building and scanned from side to side, top to bottom. Its fogged windows, its weathered brick and chinking, its front door clinging for dear life to rusted hinges. It seemed Dolt need own everything. Why bother? I asked. I pulled my key and the door yielded. Inside all was dark. I had to hold the door open to navigate. A quick glance revealed a light switch. A quick pull revealed it as non-functioning. My solution? Hold the door open with an object until a light source availed. That was a foldable chair, folded conveniently against the door. Problem solved for then. I stood in the front office. Moonlight flit through the nearest window, revealing a desk, a row of chairs, and a coffee dispenser, splayed across frayed gray carpet. Curious, I thought, everything's still here. Wouldn't the previous owner have claimed the items when it closed? Had he not, wouldn't burglars have by now? I wondered if they would be kept or replaced when it reopened, hopefully the latter, as I could have used the dispenser. I walked down the hallway lined with offices. Their doors were open, and they too held desks and typewriters. In the darkness they appeared only as faint outlines. The place was a time capsule, preserving the devices of decades past. Curious, is it not, how things of no value in their time acquire it much later? I reached the end of the hall. There was a metal door with a metal handle, clearly leading to the warehouse. The key worked again with slight difficulty. Beyond was the head. The head was a cement stairway lined with metal railing. On the floor, assembly lines stood, unused for decades, laden with dust and cobwebs. Images flooded my mind. The factory fully lit. The lines staffed with uniformed workers. Explosives rolling down the chutes, forming piece by piece, springing to lethal, life-ending life. Then battlefields, fields and jungles, soldiers in fatigues, boots and helmets, noises both man-made and made by men, flames, thuds against the ground, shrapnel from both bombs and bodies. I descended slowly, hand on the railing. While the stairs were sound, there was no light. I could easily have fallen and been injured. At last my feet reached the floor. I felt dust around them and my ankles. I produced my flashlight, having forgotten I had it. Outlines became fully rendered images. I studied the line, its gears and tread, the dispenser, its mechanical arms. Both bore the logo of a manufacturer I'd never heard of, likely defunct. Crack. A sound beside my footsteps. What and from where? Startled, I began to peer around. Like the thawing of ice, I whispered, able to think of nothing else. It seemed to come from the far left corner. I did not yet sense danger. Before investigating further, I had to do my job, that is, to prevent an unlikely break-in. I hastened to the front office to remove the chair and close the door. When I arrived, however, I saw this had been done for me. The sound could be anything. This could only be an intruder. Before I was startled, now serious. For once I could use my nightstick. I perked my ears, listening for footsteps. To my surprise, none availed. Strange, I thought. Or was it? I had been through the interior, and when returning to the office would surely have heard would-be burglars. There I was. Normally I preferred the absence of strangers. Now I found it bothersome. My job seemed a luxury I did not enjoy. I walked the office and the hallway, scanning for signs of intrusion. In each I saw only a chair, desk, and typewriter. The latter fascinated me. Having found nothing suspect, I examined one. Surprisingly, it still held sheets of paper, though withered and yellowed. I leaned in and typed I. Slowly and with great difficulty it appeared. I eyed my eye in admiration and moved on. My apprehension had passed. I must have closed the door myself and forgotten, I reckoned. Yes, I must have. With that out of the way, I could resume investigation. I walked the hall and down the steps. As I reached the floor, the sound continued. Crack. Left corner, I recalled, and turned. My flashlight revealed a side door not yet seen. Steel, window frosted. I thought again of a potential intruder. Had someone broken in and vanished behind it? If so, I could identify both he and the sound at once. I produced the key. The door slowly heaved open. I tread with caution, kept my flashlight to the floor to light my path without being seen. Not that anyone was there to. No steps, no whispers, no sound but thawing ice. I'd completed my goal, but continued nonetheless. The sound grew in volume and clarity, until I could pinpoint its exact source. A closed door at the end of the hallway, plain, unadorned, floor tile, walls alabaster. The corpses of fluorescent lights lined its ceiling, offices its walls. I glanced in each and saw but desolation. What, I wondered, would I find? Something of value? Of interest to thieves? Or simply an abandoned freezer? I knew not which to believe, or even which I sought to. I opened the door and crept inside, guided by my flashlight. There, in the center, was a tank, designed to accommodate something massive. Its sides were stainless steel, its lid clear plexiglass. Beneath its surface was a sheet of frozen ice. On its side was a switch, the sort that lit when plugged in an outlet. True to form, a cable extended beside it. The switch was down, the cable flat on the floor. On the wall was an outlet that had seen no electricity in decades. The room itself was but a cement floor and ceiling. Crack, loud and clear. I cast my light, at first seeing nothing. But as I peered closer, an image emerged within the ice, an outline of a man. It had no clothing and no body hair. Its skin was tinted blue. Who, I asked, was this? Who placed him there and why? I then realized it would soon awake if the ice continued melting. Balderdash, I thought. Ice had encased it for years. It was dead beyond dispute. I glanced back to confirm, only to see how wrong I was. Its eyes slowly peeled open. I hadn't time to move. Our eyes met briefly, and I turned. Throwing caution to the wind, I spun and darted. I ran through the door and slammed it closed, pressed my back to it, hoping my weight would keep it closed. In my panic, I'd forgotten my all-purpose key. The thawing intensified. I could only guess its strength. Hopefully, years in stasis had deteriorated it. What happened next shocked me. There was no flurry of stomps, only slow, deliberate steps. There was no punch to the door, only a gentle knock. Silence followed, then another. Perhaps it was playing coy. Yes, it had to be. Perhaps it did not know that I knew. It would not yield as planned. I was prepared, though wasn't. Knock. I could only stand there so long. I would tire in time, and it would move. The sun would rise, and it would be at large, finding its way to town. Would I be there? Unlikely. Relenting, I opened the door. I know not why. Perhaps I thought it futile. The outcome would be the same regardless. I winced and turned the knob. Once again, I was shocked. It did not lunge at me, fingers at my throat. It simply waited in the doorway, then stepped forth with one foot, as if testing water. We stood face to face, 5 feet apart. I should have stepped back, but feared its reaction. Sudden movements. I dimmed my light and raised it to its face. It had no ears, no nose, only flat nostrils for the latter. It stood 7 feet at the very least, shoulders and torso broad, encompassing the door frame. Its complexion was gray, likely the ice. Still, its skin was tight, taut, sinewy, a wall of muscle. Its head and face were human, 2 eyes, 1 mouth lined with perfect teeth. Its eyes were the most interesting. They showed either a complete absence of intellect or a capacity never cultivated. Yet none of the aggression I expected. In fact, no emotion whatsoever. Vacancy. Exhausted, bewildered, I gazed upon it likewise. Thus we stood, long into the night.